Look at this, it's a full house.
I know. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to see. Hi. Hi, you guys.
I need a tea just for a second.
Okay.
She needs some extra water. If you're not going to drink those, you can pass it down.
I'll guzzle this one and then go look for another one.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene. And so if I can ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to go ahead and adopt the agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
A motion? A second. Ms. Garcia seconds. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. That vote passes with a vote of 5-0. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the board meeting minutes not previously approved for the April 24th work session?
Madam President, I motion that we approve the board meeting minutes not previously approved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. We're going to go to information and information only items, summary of current events. And we'll start with the governing board report. I feel like I always start and then everybody, so I'll let somebody else start.
I always look for the end just because it's a habit.
No.
Do you have anybody?
I'm looking forward to the LEAD conference next week. I've been working on with my kids to plan that. I think that's a pretty exciting opportunity for our kids, both on both ends, both to deliver that and to get that. Was able to visit a couple schools as they returned. We're thrilled beyond belief that our little issues have finished up for now, and that our teachers and staff are back in schools, and our kids are back where they belong. Everybody's back where they belong, where they want to be. And so I saw nothing but positive, happy to be back people, and it was refreshing for me. So thank you.
I'm going to talk about senior interviews. This is about my 4th or 5th year doing senior interviews, and the kids dress up, they do mock interviews with us, and just kind of prepare themselves for the world, getting ready preparation for graduation. And typically after the interview, I ask the students, if they have concerns or questions or things that they want to ask me. And some of the positive things that they brought up was the teachers, and how they are really going to miss the teachers. Miss Anderson was pretty hot topic. The students talked about how they love her as a teacher and how her way of thinking and the way she teaches is outside the box, and that she makes the class fun. And so that was awesome to kind of have conversation with them about the teachers. Some of the seniors' suggestions were more electives, which I know we're all working on, and possibly longer lunches, of course. And then the library, which I know that we've had discussion about the library being open during normal school hours. So it was just fun to see them as young people getting ready to get into the world, and just preparation. And so I just wanted to thank Ms. Loftus and her mom, Judy Miller, for organizing this. It's like one of my favorite things to do every year. So I just want to thank you guys for doing that.
April was a pretty busy month. Also, I attended the senior interviews, and I'm always impressed with how prepared our high school students are when they come to these interviews. They're dressed professionally, they're dressed for success, they answer the questions I'm surprised at how they're not nervous. I remember being a teenager and going to an interview and being really nervous. So the ones that I had the opportunity to interview seemed like they were incredibly prepared, and they just impress us every year when we do these interviews. With Apache Junction Drug Prevention Coalition, I attended a suicide prevention. It's a show called The Ripple Effect. We had gone with board member of Vice President Kimball, and our superintendent and council member Wilson had also gone, and the president of Apache Junction Drug Prevention Coalition, who is a teacher here, Shelley Verley. And it's something that we need to look at as a board. It's always a concern when you work with children, making sure that we're connecting with them and making sure that we're addressing issues with children that may be depressed or having any kind of issues, that we have some training to know how to recognize kids that might be having issues. One of the main things that they talked about in the movie was if you see somebody that just feels like they're struggling, just ask them, are you okay? Do you need help? Don't be afraid to ask, because a lot of times if somebody is struggling, they don't want to make that first step to ask for help, but if somebody does reach out to them, a lot of times people are willing to express, you know what, I'm struggling and I do need some help. I know we had talked about, and I'd like to bring it to one of our future agendas, about having the teen suicide hotline on our high school identification cards. And so also I had attended Four Peaks DARE graduation, and I'll just keep it brief. I just want to thank the city for making sure that we continue having that program for our students. A lot of the cities, because of funding, have done away with the DARE program, and that was one of the things that our city staff and our city leaders felt was critical not to get rid of, and so we still have the DARE program, and I just want to thank them for that. And there was something else. I had attended a city event. I think it was the Mother's Day tea, and I just wanted to thank our ROTC students that had done the serving. It was probably over 100 people that were there, and they treated these moms and grandmoms and daughters like they were just gold. They served tea, they served everything. We didn't have to get out of our chairs for anything. They were very attentive, and we just really appreciated the job that our ROTC did at that event. So it was great to see them out. Thank you.
So I feel like we'd kind of be remiss not to mention the Red for Ed movement, the government movement, Arizona State Legislature. Obviously it's been a crazy couple weeks. Our state government has, over the last decade, failed public education, and I applaud the movement that finally made them pay attention. I went to Peralta Trail Elementary School Monday morning, and Ms. Clement let me meet briefly with the teachers, and they had some really great questions and were very excited to be back to see their students. So it was pretty cool to be there and see that. This last weekend, also Parks and Rec put together with the Apache Junction High School football team a football run downtown at Flatiron Park, and so that was always fun to be at as well.
Hello everyone, welcome, and I want to say I'm so happy to be back at school. Welcome back. As you can see, board members, we were busy, we were out there doing things. I'm going to make it short. So I also went to Desert Vista Elementary School on Monday and brought donuts for the teachers to welcome back, and it was so nice to see teachers lined up on the sidewalk welcoming back the students with posters and everything. So it's really exciting, and I'm so glad that to see everybody back. It's just nice. And also, this wasn't mentioned, we did have a board retreat. What was it, last week? Yep. And so that was exciting to be able to sit with a representative of ASBA and have some discussion about some of the board issues that we have. I mean, some of the objectives and like examining challenges and things like that. And it really helps us as a board to work together I'm sorry that Miss Rizzi wasn't able to attend, but the 4 of us that did, it was amazing, and we got so much out of it. And ASBA does a great job with training for board and things that we need, and we're always learning and growing all the time. And so I was really happy to attend that retreat, and I think we got a lot out of it. Agree?
Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent report.
Good afternoon, good evening. I also attended the senior interviews and was very impressed. There was one young man who said he's participating in the EVIT program over at Williams Field, and he has always dreamed of being a pilot. And so he's been watching airplanes in the sky for his entire life and decided to try this EVIT program. And the first time he was ever in an airplane, he actually flew it. And so we do have some wonderful programming offers for our kids, and if they simply dream, then there might be something available for them in the future. A few other things that have been happening over the last several weeks is I had an opportunity to read to the 3rd grade students at Peralta Trail, and I will say that they sent me the coolest thank you cards out there. They were just the sweetest things, and they would like me to come back again, but they will have to wait till next year. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, I've had a couple of meetings with regarding Youth Matters for our junior high students. And so we do have an opportunity for our 7th and 8th grade students. I was told there was no cap on the number of kids, that the more the merrier. But that is being held on June 16th on Saturday, and so we will be getting out to our Cactus Canyon Junior High kids an opportunity for them to attend, and it really is talking about a lot of the things that Mrs. Rizzi had talked about, our Teen Lifeline, some challenges that our kids may be facing with bullying, suicidal thoughts, mental illness, and what can we do to help support one another, and what kind of avenues can we have at the school or outside community that will be very helpful for our kids, because we want them to have as many successes as they can in life. And when they do face these challenges, how do you have that perseverance and to be able to get over that hump so that you can see that the world is has a much positive sense. And then I do want to finish with, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and it is Nurses Appreciation Week. Wow. And we have wonderful teachers within Apache Junction, wonderful staff. And so if we can just give a round of applause to our wonderful staff of Apache Junction. Thank you.
We'll move on to the administrative report. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say regarding the administrator report? Thank you.
Just the concerns. We just need to keep an eye on these concerns.
And actually, given the concerns, especially with the maintenance and technology concerns on preparing the campuses, and I'm assuming Mr. Hill and you guys have working to put a plan in place to make sure that.
Unfortunately, we don't have all of the funds to be able to correct everything, but we have prioritized what we need to get done throughout the summer.
I'm going to invite Dr. Cruz up for the employee and volunteer recognition.
That's the young lady over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Mark. I got it backwards.
So, my name's Sally. I'm the PR person here, and I have the honor of giving the Volunteer of the Month and the Employee of the Month for the district office. Oh, you know what? Is Jean Marshall's probably in the lobby? Calling Jean Marshall.
Pretty popular place tonight.
Yep. We got standing room only.
Here she comes.
Come on up here, Jean. Hi. got Jean here on a roost. I told her the governing board was going to ask her some questions about the a project that she did, the AJ Teachers Helper. But actually, she is our volunteer of the month at the district office. And a few months ago, just so you have a little background, Dr. Anderson gave me the information of a woman who she met at a community event, and that Jean wanted to volunteer and do a Facebook page just for our teachers called AJ Teachers Helper, where the teachers could post what they wanted, and there was some parameters. They couldn't ask for a trip to the Riviera or anything like that, but things that they needed, and then people in the community or sometimes companies could grant those wishes to make it a little bit easier on the teachers. And just so you have an idea, and this has just been a few months, this is a list of all the things that the teachers have been able to get from posting online and requesting it. And it really runs the gamut, from cameras to empty egg cartons to recently 300 books. But you know, because sometimes there's a project and you need something, and so she has been just phenomenal in helping us in so many ways. And just personally, I have to say that when they told me, Sally, we want to use this volunteer and she wants to do this Facebook page, I thought, oh man, you know, I'm going to get stuck doing something. And that it didn't take long to realize. I thought, oh, she's probably not going to follow through. But then I met her, and follow through is like her middle name. And she's been wonderful. So anyway, she does this. She monitors. I don't have to do a thing, and just sing her praises. And she's optimistic, energetic, and she has great ideas. And it's been a pleasure to know her and a pleasure to give her this award today.
I'd like to say thank you, but I'm only the pebble that got thrown in the pond. It takes all those ripples to make it work. So thank you all from the community, and any of you that aren't on AJ Teachers Helper, we'd love to have you join. This summer we're doing prospecting for classroom gold. And it requires nothing but cleaning your closets. So any of you that would like to join, come on over.
Here you go.
Jane, if you want to stand over here, then we'll get the other Sally. We're going to flip you guys around.
Not you, Sally.
Sneaking away. So next, I haven't seen her yet, is Nicole Thomas in the house. Oh, she's hiding out there. And Nicole is another one that we tried to pull a fast one on to get her here today. We wanted to surprise her, and so Edna said, we need you here to help take minutes. And if you can imagine, for somebody that doesn't have to be here, taking minutes at these governing board meetings is really high on the priority list, but she said she would do it. And that's just very typical of Nicole. And so I just wanted to say just a couple things. There's a quote by this Japanese teacher from the early 1900s called Sanatsubura Makaguchi. And he said basically there are 3 different types of people. Those you wish to have around, those whose presence doesn't make a difference one way or the other, and those whose presence merely disturbs you. and definitely Nicole is one of the people you want to have around. And she's a multi-talented young woman. She makes the rounds to all the schools to deliver the mail, so many folks know her as being helpful and kind. But she's really so much more. She has a great sense of humor, is creative, kind, diligent, and resourceful in her many, many duties. And I got input from other coworkers, not just me. And I already told you how we decided to surprise her. But just as another example, today somebody called in sick, and we asked if she could man the phones. And you know, she again was able to do it. And she has so many interesting duties that she has to do. And right now, answering the phone is not the easiest thing. to do here at the AJUSD hot seat, but she did it. We launched a website, and she was doing better than the actual website company at solving the problems. She just tackles a problem, and she works on it until she gets it done. And if she doesn't know how to do something, she figures it out. I think you're amazing. We all think you're amazing, and we couldn't be happier than to present you with this well-deserved award for our Employee of the Month.
We do have one more person that we wanted to honor this evening, and it is for our certified staff. And our certified staff member we are honoring tonight is Heather Wallace, Director of Construction. Now, Heather is somebody I count on and rely on quite a bit. You know, being new into the district, there's a lot of historical pieces that you don't quite know how these pieces fit. Heather is the one that is the keeper of knowledge, is what I've decided. She is smart, she's talented, she has a great rapport with the teachers, and she's done a fabulous job with special education. This year we did not have a director of special education, and she stepped up into that role and just has done an amazing job working with the teachers, looking at compliance and all of the different things that I know that many districts are struggling with. And she has done it with grace, style, and I am greatly appreciative of you. So, congratulations. Now, are the family members of these three people, if there's anyone in the audience, I'm going to ask you to stand for a few moments so that we can cheer you on, because you guys helped make these people. And Nicole is telling Mom to please stay seated. Thank you.
There we go. All right.
Thank you all so much for your contribution. Now we're going to move on to the best part of the night, where we're going to recognize not just the students of the month, but the students of the year. So now Dr. Cruz will come up for that.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Anderson, the community. If we haven't met, my name is Jen Cruz. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. And this is a fantastic evening for us to celebrate your wonderful children. We're so lucky that we have these amazing kiddos and amazing families that we get to serve here in Apache Junction. So truly from me, thank you. Your kids are phenomenal, and we're just so lucky to have folks like you in this community. So thanks for that. Thanks for having great kids. We appreciate it. And thanks for sending them here. We know you have choices in where you fly, right? So thanks for being with us. What I'm going to do is, if I could please invite our principals. We've got some site leaders here, so we're going to ask them to come on in. And members of the board, if you don't mind coming down. So boys and girls, your principals were so excited about this evening that we started communicating about this at 5:45 this morning. They wanted to make sure that we were on target, that I was going to do what was expected. So that is how excited your principals were.
Yes, the short ones have to get up on the step. See, she's going to become as tall as you.
I think that one's coming up.
And if we could please too, I believe that Mr. Mack and Mr. Struble are here with us. You know, they've been supportive of our kiddos and have been helping us recognize outstanding students throughout this school year. We appreciate them. Boys and girls, this is practice for graduation and your wedding, when you're going to have to shake a whole lot of people's hands. Who's first? You're welcome. We're all so proud of you. Everybody will have an opportunity to congratulate you. All right, so if we could, we're going to start with Desert Vista. We have two fantastic students of the year from Desert Vista, Sierra Anderson and Jagger Shields.
Sierra Anderson. Oh, here it is, Claire Anderson.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I got another one for him.
All right, and from Four Peaks, we'd like to congratulate Cynthia Marcos and Daniel Urias for doing awesome. Geraldo Trail, we have two fantastic students, Benjamin Martinez and Kaylin Bone.
Congratulations.
From Cactus Canyon Junior High School, we would like to welcome Olivia McCrary and Doug Ray.
Awesome job.
All right, from Apache Junction High School, we'd like to welcome Nathaniel Candelas and Melanie. Members of the community, your pride and joy brings us joy every day. Thanks for sharing them with us. Really, it's phenomenal to get to see these young people grow throughout the year. We're going to do a photo op because, of course, right? That's what we do when things are fantastic. We're going to ask the kiddos to come on up. We'll let y'all take some pictures. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And then we have some from the DAR. Those are so cute.
So Miss
And then they all leave. You guys can stay.
Meeting adjourned.
You're more than welcome to stay.
Oh, good. I'm glad you guys called back to work.
So Miss Smith is going to honor our Junior American Citizen State and National Awards recognition.
Thank you so much. I am so proud and blessed at Desert Vista by the students who surround me, but also by our staff members. And The teacher I'm going to call up right now is actually going to do the presentation because I believe that she deserves recognition as well. Each and every year, Gina Freyer, come on up Gina, has provided many different learning opportunities for her students to express their creative writing, their artistic abilities, but also to express what comes from their heart. And so without further ado, I'd love to introduce Gina Freyer.
I am excited to be able to tell you that we have some recognitions to show some kids that have just showed amazing talent in the creative arts, writing, drawing, and using a theme. So standing next to me is Karen Barks. Both her and I are members of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and Daughters of the American Revolution sponsors creative arts contest every year based on something that is important for that year. So 2017 was the 100th year of, let me get it, don't tell me, 100th year of United States involvement in World War I. And so we participated in this contest, and the kids were asked to make banners and posters and poems and stories. And we are so happy to say that we have some winners for second grade that won for the state of Arizona. So all of the people who joined in with the contest, they all were winners, but so not all of them, but many of the kids in my class were winners for the state of Arizona. So I'm going to call up some of them that were able to show up. The first one was Maddie Dennison. She wasn't able to be here, but this is her poster that she won the first place for state on. And she made in remembrance, and this is a poster of poppies that represent Flanders Field, with the poppies after World War I. And it has different things to remember about the World War I. So she won first place for that. So can we see it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Cute. And then another winner is, there's 3 kids, so I want to call up Liberty Osback, Camden Thomas,
Look how cute they are.
and Eva is not here. They did a banner, and they forgot to bring the banner, which makes me sad because it is amazing. And I don't know if you guys know a lot about World War I, but it was a dog's role in World War I was really important because they were the ones that got to go out and rescue the fallen soldiers on the front line, and they would drag them back to safety. And so their banners were the banners that had different dogs and the roles of the different dogs. So they had 5 different dogs on theirs, and they wrote about what the role of the dog was on their banner. So can we give them a hand? And they went to the state, and they received this award, and you're going to show them your little certificate, and they show them your certificate, and they received the certificate at the Daughters of the American Revolution State Conference. Alrighty, so good job, guys. And then, so they were state winners. So then, if you were kids, I'd make you do a drum roll on your lap. And then, we had 2 state winners that went on to the nationals, and they won nationals. So we have 2 national winners, and Karen Barks is here. She's going to do that presentation for them and present their national awards to them. Do you want me to talk? Okay, okay. So anyways, the first one is Jeanette Landfear. You want to come up, Jeanette? Jeanette wrote a story through the eyes of Miko the war dog. And I gave her her story, and I said, do you want to read some of it? I have to read it? She didn't know. So do you want to read some of it? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Kids are like, do you think you could just stand right there and just be really loud? Oh, I know you can.
She
be
can
loud.
stand where
You guys are microphones.
Come right here.
Oh, okay.
Come up here.
Ooh, you get to sit in Dr. Anderson's spot.
Have a seat.
So do I read all of it?
Just read part of it. Get real close to the mic, okay?
Hi, my name is Miko. I am a German Shepherd in the Great War. Not all dogs get to be messenger dogs in the war. Since I'm so brave and smart, the soldiers thought I would be a good at sending messages to the soldiers at the front. One foggy cold day, I was sleeping in the trench when a soldier came up to me and woke me up. At first, I was a little grumpy at being woke up, but then he said, Miko, you need to send a urgent to the front. It was time to do my job. After my gas mask was put on the message was put in my pocket of my vest, I was ready. Climbing to the top of the trench was no big deal for me.
Good. So the great thing about that is, with this contest, is the kids got to research. They researched all the information about World War I, so that's something that they will always have, remembering some of those facts about it.
This is very exciting.
You're on the other side.
Oh, gosh.
And then the last national winner was Blake Johnson. So Blake received his state award, and that's what he has here. But now he needs to get his national award. And Blake designed, was it a stamp? Or, okay. He designed a stamp. And do you want to talk to them about what your stamp is about? Or you don't need to? Okay, decide. What? Okay. So he drew a stamp about with, and you guys, and you can show it to him, Linda. With the men in trenches. Help, it says, help the men in the trenches. Show it to him. Okay, welcome.
This is the second place award in the stamps for second grade. National. And here it shows that.
So Karen's going to say something, and then is it possible to get all the kids up, like to make one big picture together?
Yeah,
with them?
sure.
Okay.
Ms. Frayer, Ms. Rizzi had a good idea if we could maybe get pictures of the banners and the signs and the
Right.
stamp and the picture and maybe put them on the website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
My name is Karen Barks. I'm a member of the Apache Trail chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to be here tonight. And I want to thank the schools for their wonderful support of our organization. And we come to the schools and do stuff for the JROTC. We have the Good Citizen Award that we give for the senior girl. We also come and do things at Constitution Week, and we have a art contest for the junior and the senior high school for the Bill of Rights. So we do those kind of things. In addition, this year at Desert Vista, and I don't know if everywhere else, they had a pollinator garden. And so that was something that was very interesting that they did. But Gina, thank you for your work with the students. It's wonderful. And thank you for allowing us to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so all the kids that are here, come on up, guys. Yeah, bring your award. All your bling. All your award bling. What are you guys doing? You doing your hair back there? I know.
Is there another one here?
Wait, was there another one?
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the public comments. We have a couple. The public is invited to address the governing board on any issue within its jurisdiction subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Governing board members are not permitted to discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. However, the law permits the governing board members to do the following at the conclusion of call to the public. Respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, ask a staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Matters of the public will generally be provided up to 3 minutes to speak. So first we have Carrie Mortensen.
Good evening, Governing Board and Dr. Anderson. I don't know, can you guys hear me? I didn't bring my glasses, so I have to do this. Back at the end of February, I found a rock with the inspirational quote, "In a gentle way, you will shake the world." Little did I know that not only would I be a part of a movement to shake the world, but to do it within 2 months and not so gentle. Decades of funding in Arizona to public education with more bills in the, decades of funding cuts in Arizona to public education with more bills in the legislative budget to divert more funds from the school districts resulted in a spark that exploded 10 years of festering frustration and anger over the abysmal lack of funding. We wore red and walked into our schools to show our solidarity of a gathering storm. We stood out among the public on streets and parking lots by libraries and restaurants to educate the public about the lack of funding for schools. In that time, the governor only proposed a 1% increase for pay raises for the next year, with no funding planned for schools or support staff. When the movement announced the plan to walk out a week later on April 26th, the governor found the money the next day, still negating the problems that had festered by trying to appease educators with a 20% raise over the next 3 years. There was no plan for funding for our students' classrooms, dilapidated schools, and funds for support staff. Therefore, we walked. We walked together over 2 miles, 75,000 educators strong, in a sea of red to the Capitol to knock on the door of the governor and legislators' offices to let them know we were tired, we were angry, and we were not leaving until they fully funded public schools properly. During that time, we were called horrific names, cussed at, accused of neglecting our students, called un-American, and this bothers me so I might cry, and communists for wanting a better learning condition for our students and better working conditions for our staff. Can I take a break?
Sure.
Oh, goodbye.
call the next. Roberto Revelis.
Thank you. My name is Roberto Revelis, resident of Gold Canyon. History has been made. Public education must remain at the top of Arizona's agenda. An undeniable lesson from recent events is that working for public policy change at the Arizona legislature is a long-term and uncertain process. 3 years ago, our Apache Junction Unified School District faced an ongoing fiscal challenge that led to closing of the Superstition Mountain Elementary School. The closure motivated a small group of concerned citizens from Apache Junction and Gold Canyon to organize under the name of Save Our Schools, a name also adopted by other concerned communities. This initial group included Cindy Valgento, Kathleen Mongello, Cami Garcia, Cassandra Knox, Joseph Dutra, Arthur Helfgott, David Coward, and myself. A teacher, parents, a student, and retirees. Our efforts focused on advocating for increased public school funding by direct communication with local taxpayers and with state legislators elected from our community. Some participants from our local team have taken on new responsibilities or have been sidelined by health, family, or career challenges. Others have most recently added our voice and presence to the massive outpouring of activism by an energized coalition of teachers, administrators, support staff, parents, students, and community activists. Today, that initial Save Our Schools team can look back over the past 3 years with pride and satisfaction. Satisfied that what at times seemed a lonely exercise in futility, in reality reflects comparable concerns that have been simmering statewide and which suddenly emerged as a dynamic Red for Ed movement committed to make a real difference. Despite recent dramatic results from the teachers' walkout, Arizona's legislative resistance remains pretty much unchanged, illustrating the clear need for voters to ensure that those who sit in the legislature wholeheartedly support our public school system as mandated by Arizona's Constitution. A Constitution that declares, quote, "The legislature shall make such appropriations to be met by taxation as shall ensure the proper maintenance of all state educational institutions, and shall make such special appropriations as shall provide for the development and improvement," close quote. In other words, no taking from Peter to pay Paul, and no short-term temporary fixes. Our newly emerged grassroots advocacy must unapologetically and aggressively continue working to elect legislators who are unreservedly committed to the long-term viability of an adequately funded public school system.
So
A system inclusive, and I'm winding up, of well-compensated teachers and support staff, updated teaching materials, and a safe physical environment for our children. For today, congratulations to all who combine their energies in support of the Red for Ed movement. From tomorrow onwards, the newly energized public must stay involved as the campaign to save our schools continues through the year's critical election cycle. Remember the unchallenged admonition that the world is run by those who show up. Finally, as America's education revolutionary John Dewey put it, arriving at one goal is a starting point to another. Thank you for your tolerance.
Thank
you guys. Sorry. I didn't cry all week too much, so this was, of course, I did on camera. I can find my spot just a minute.
Communist is where you are.
Yeah, let's do communist. We're wanting better learning conditions for our students and better working conditions for our staff. We were locked out of the Senate building at times and forced to sit on the lobby floors during other times because the Senate refused to open the overflow rooms with chairs for the teachers. We stayed, we watched, we chanted, we made ourselves known, we were anchored in and forcing change. Over the 6 days of protest at the Capitol, we found out that we have a collective Herculean strength that cannot be undone. We celebrated small victories together and cried together many times. We missed our families, we missed our students, we missed our normalcy of life, but we know we had a movement that was strong and powerful. We refused to stop until we enacted a change of funding for our educational system. We sat in hearings and listened to bills that would affect public education, standing up to speak against those bills with passion for the students we teach. We marched and sat on the Capitol lawn en masse to discuss the proceedings and hearings we attended. We made appointments with legislators in their offices and met them in the courtyard. We spent all day and night, some camping out overnight in Doug Coleman's office, while others showed up at 3 and 4 a.m. to watch the House and Senate hearings, letting the legislators know we were there and not going away until the public schools were a part of the conversation. They didn't like us there. They tried to pull shenanigans and recess their meetings until the late evenings and early morning hours. We refused to leave and continued our pressure. Together, the educators of Arizona made an extremely powerful vice script and never let it relax. The legislators and governor got the message. In order to restore funding to 2008, the state would have had to find a way to replace $1.1 billion in cuts to education. When this movement first started, the governor only was willing to offer $65 million, which would have gone toward teacher salaries alone. We didn't find that adequate, as retaining teachers was not our only educational problem. We demanded the public take education seriously. We were, and are still, in a crisis for funding that must be addressed each year until funding is restored. When looking at the numbers, the movement was able to keep the pressure on the governor and legislators to commit to $400 million instead of $65 million. It was a fraction of what we needed, but more than what was originally offered. $698 million, which is just a baffling number, are still not restored, and with no sustainable funding to do so. We have more work to do during the next few years of legislative sessions. I just have a little bit, can I keep going? The legislative process in the state of Arizona is complex and deceptive. As we found out, it can be changed through force. We will not become apathetic again about our educational system. Did we make a difference? Absolutely. We opened up an awareness about the underfunding of public schools. Without this movement, we were on the same wheel of funding and with no solution in place. With
So
this
we're at your time.
Okay. What's that?
If you can wrap it up.
Okay, I have just this little piece. Can I get that piece? With this movement, we forced a conversation among the public and the legislative body that we need help and will not go away easily. Did we make some people upset? Absolutely, and they should be. Public education, where 95% of the students of Arizona attend, is abysmally underfunded. We are bottom of the nation, to be exact. With this new funding, we went from 50th place to remain in 50th place. The students of the state are losing out on an education equitable to the rest of the nation. We are a large red giant wave, aware, awake, and organized to continue the fight for public education. Our students in Apache Junction deserve it. We shook the world in a not so gentle way, and education is now the topic of conversations and important again. And I just had one other thing I wanted to just address to our staff members. To my colleagues, I ask you as the leader of the district movement, when you came to me, I gave you as much information as I could. I'm asking you to stay off social media as your platform for grievances for the district. We have a process at the district to channel those emotions through the district office and the board meetings. Please use our district resources properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Reagan Dix.
Governing Board, first off, I want to commend all of the AJ Unified School District teachers and staff regarding the walkout. I was present at a lot of those events, and I've never seen more energized, vocal educators, support, parents, anybody. Dang it, Carrie, you're gonna make me cry. It was truly, truly amazing, and it was very, very inspiring, I will truly say, and I was honored to take part of it. They handled themselves with grace and were among the finest educators there. For anybody that thinks that this was just another time off, another week off, rest assured it wasn't. As Carrie pointed out, everybody was down there. They were highly in tune to the events and what was happening. They were sitting in the gallery of both the Senate and the House. They were meeting with their legislators, and they were speaking about their views and their jobs and your kids' futures. I personally was there for the march to the Capitol among 75,000 other people, and that following weekend, I was also up for 34 hours and was at the Capitol for 20 straight hours, Wednesday night into Thursday morning and afternoon, when the legislation was voted and signed. The morale was amazing, the attitudes were high. However, one thing I continually heard was, where is our governing board? I would, however, like to thank two of our board members, Mr. Weaver and Ms. Rizzi, who were both present for several days and events throughout the community, and I've even heard a story about one of the board members speaking up on behalf of our teachers at an event because they were being called horrible names. However, no one saw or heard anything from any of the remaining board members. To me, that's a shame. Again, it glaringly points out that our governing board talks the talk but refuses to walk the walk, and we wonder why our staff doesn't feel valued or supported. There's your answer, guys, right there. Moving on to another issue that I have that's recently come up this week, that would be the graduation issue that has now been caused due to the walkout at the middle school. The governing board needs to step up and do something about this because it's seriously affecting our middle school kids and their families. I've heard from at least 5 parents personally who have told me that they're not able to attend their kids' graduation because we've moved the date of their graduation. That is wrong on all accounts. People are having to rearrange their entire lives, and on such short notice, that's not always possible. I've also spoken with many middle school staff and they have offered some solutions to help the problem. Solutions like eliminating the ZAP hour, allowing that to count for instructional minutes, keeping graduation as is, and telling parents and kids that they have to attend the extra days if they want to ensure they move forward, extending the school day by 1 hour every day until we can make those up. Those are just some of the solutions that I urge you to consider. This has already caused a rift in the community, and it's going to continue to get worse until the board and administration step up and do something. All of the decisions have to have the best interest of not only our students, but our parents as well. The current decision has the best interest of neither of those. It is in the best interest of the district. This is how we will continue to lose more people, and this is how we will continue to lose the trust of our community. Thank you.
I'm going to take some time to respond to the criticism because it's just simply not true that people weren't, speaking for myself, involved for Red for Ed activities, because that absolutely was and supported 100%. So I just will take time to respond to that criticism because it's just untrue.
I agree.
Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to number 7, the action items, the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam President, I motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
No second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. We're going to move on to number 8, information and discussion items. Number 1 is the 2017-18 budget revision discussion, and I believe Ms. Riker is going to present that.
Okay, I think we need to have this written down to get it moved. Yep.
Yep, you gotta move.
You moving down?
Yes, thanks. I can do that. Are you sure?
pleasure to be here with all of you again. We're going to talk about the budget revision for the 17-18 budget revision. This is the third one that we have for the year. Just as a little bit of explanation, the budget basics, we pretty much know that our budget is driven on student ADM, student count. And we also know that our budget is determined by legislative formulas. And then the monies to fund these formulas are obtained from state aid and then also from our local taxation. This is just a little synopsis of what we've had for our expenditure budget. We proposed the budget in June, adopted it in July. The first revision was in October, and that revision was due to the 1.06% salary increase for teachers. We had to actually revise some of those expenditures. And the revision number 2 was due to a reduction in our budget due to a decline in Group B funding, which is for special education students. And that brings us to revision number 3, which is what we're going to talk to tonight. Just to let you know that after a budget is adopted in July, districts are given numerous opportunities to revise. Some of them are mandated, some of them are just, if the district feels that they need to do it. So the last revision that can be done, though, it has to be done by May 15th, and that's the one that we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, I think we can go on. Thank you. All right, this is a synopsis of the budget revision. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. This is basically when you have this big budget document in front of you. This is what we're talking about, and we've gone through this several times this year. And these revisions are all in here. So let's talk a little bit about those revisions and why we did them. First of all, we'll talk about the big maintenance and operation budget, that Fund 001. That's our big fund. We had some adjustments to it, which caused a decrease of about $7,500, and those were due to some ADM adjustments. But then we had some carryover, and we had quite a bit of carryover. If you remember, our budget was built on about $1.3 million carryover, but because some expenditures didn't come in as expected by the end of the year, we were able to carry over more money than that. So our budget balance carry forward was actually $620,000 more than what we anticipated. And so the net of those two amounts is a total budget revision of $612,549. That's the M&O portion. And if you look in this document on page 2, or actually I guess it says 1, you'll see within that document there are highlighted areas in here, and those are the areas that were actually revised. Those are the areas that we revised due to expenditures being in one area rather than the other, and then also to incorporate that $612,000 additional carryover. The unrestricted budget, capital budget, there was an ADE adjustment of $22,000, which was due to the additional DAA reductions that the legislature actually gave us. And they do that sometimes within the year. During your budget, you have a formula and you know how much your reductions are going to be. Because remember, we are only working on about 15% of our actual formula dollars that we should be getting for unrestricted capital. So even with that, within the year, there was an additional adjustment, and our adjustment was $22,000. However, we did have a budget balance carry forward of $204,000, which again was due to expenditures not coming in as expected, and so we were able to net out an additional $182,000, which was an additional amount to our unrestricted capital. Federal and state grants. There was an addition of $238,000. The reason being is because when we adopt the budget in July, we do it with all the information that we have at that time. But there are some federal grants that actually run through September 30th. And so when those grants have all the extra expenditures in and we can account for that, it isn't until October that we really have a real amount for the allocation for the federal funds and also the carryover. So until October, we really don't know what those allocations are going to be. And when everything came through with the expenditures, we had an upwards allocation of $238,000. Classroom site fund money. You can see that there was an adjustment downwards of about $60,000. Now this was due to extra expenditures coming in after the July 1st date when we actually proposed the budget and actually adopted the budget. Because remember, we have an encumbrance period. So there can be adjustments to expenditures all the way through August. However, we don't know exactly what those are until the end of August. So there were some adjustments there. And then also there were some adjustments because of ADM. And there again, our classroom site funds are not based upon current year funding like our M&O is. They are based on prior year ADM. So there were some adjustments there. All in all, it caused a decrease of about $60,000 to our classroom site fund budget. All right, now we were talking about classroom site fund, and I know we had some questions about it, so I thought I would just review a little bit about what the classroom site funds really are. This again was money, or is money that is derived from the state sales tax, and that was part of that 2000 Proposition 301. Well, that has been extended, which is good, but we're still under this. So, how is this divided? Classroom site funds have 3 buckets. The first bucket is strictly to be used for teacher base salary increases. And right now, in our teachers' contracts, $1,100 is a portion that is what is apportioned into their contracts from the Fund 011 for the first one. Performance pay fund, bucket number 2 or Fund 012 is for performance-based teacher compensation only. Has nothing to do with their salary. It cannot be put into their salary schedules as such. It is strictly based for performance. And that is bucket number 2. Okay. Bucket number 3 is called the menu item. You can use that for a whole lot of things. Right now, in our teachers' contracts and their salaries, $1,300 from Fund 013 is in each teacher's salary. And you can also use it for other things like teacher development, class size reduction. So we have new teachers that come into the district every year, and they are allocated up to 5 days of teacher development. And so 3 of those days can actually be funded by Fund 013 for the classroom site fund, third bucket. Now in 2018 there was a little bit of a difference here because it was based on $386 per weighted student count, but only 54% of that is really from the weighted student count. $19 of that was considered a one-time because there was additional money in dollars. So that is just a one-time deal, but it is basically an increase of $54 per weighted student count. All right. Don't know if we have another slide there or not. Are we done? Okay. All right. So if you have any questions about this, we have a narrative. I think you were given a narrative, and what I did is I just kind of went through each one of the areas of the budget, what the increases were, and why they were increased. If you would like for me to go through those with you, I'll be more than happy to do that, or if you have any questions on those. One thing I would like to point out, when we had to reallocate the budget, is we had a big difference, a big adjustment in our special education portion. And on page 3 of your narrative, you'll see that. Actually, the total adjustment to special education was $618,000. Now that's a whopping amount. You're saying, what is that? Why did we have to do that? Well, we had a lot of out-of-district placements. So we had children that had to go to out-of-district facilities for their needs. And that actually came in higher than we thought. We had, for example, we had a student who we had to tuition out into Gilbert School District. That's to the tune of about $60,000. So these were some of the needs that came in, some of the students that came in that had these special needs that we did realize at the beginning when we first adopted the budget. But as the year went on, we had these students coming into our district, and we had to be able to provide those services. So that was one big expenditure. Another big expenditure in the special education area was for contracted vendors. In other words, people like psychologists were very difficult for us to employ. We just couldn't find them. And speech pathologists, OT, PT people. We had budgeted a certain amount, knowing that we didn't have those folks on staff. However, we actually had to spend more money, and so another $143,000 was put into that special education fund for that, into that portion of the budget. If you kind of go down through, pupil transportation really didn't change a whole lot. It increased by about $17,000 there again, just because of expenditures. And the regular education just increased by about $10,000, almost $11,000.
Cindy, could the transportation, could that be attributed to maybe the cost of fuel going up or down,
definitely.
or fluctuating, or the cost of tires or parts?
Definitely.
Those kind of things go up, and they're not predictable all the time.
Exactly, and then our fleet is old. We're having more maintenance, and so more repairs and things like that. So those expenses have definitely increased, and they will probably continue to increase because of the age of our fleet.
And then I just have one more point of clarification. You talked about the increases in the special needs, and just for clarification, sometimes we get these questions, people don't always understand. And so when we have children that come to us, number one, we don't know how many special needs children are going to come to us every year.
Exactly.
And number two, they all have different needs.
Exactly.
Sometimes our school district is not able to provide for the needs that they specifically need, and when it's determined that they have to go somewhere else, we have to transport, and we also have to fund whatever those needs are, correct?
Definitely.
And so these are not necessarily things that we can, you have a general idea, but we don't know who's going to come to us each year in special needs and what their needs are going to be. So that's could be a reason why that cost is more than we had planned for.
Every year, you kind of make a prediction of who are the children that are rolling up into the next grade level, or if we know we have a preschooler coming into kindergarten, we might need to have some special facilities or special programming. When you have children in the outside placement, it runs anywhere from $30,000 up to $100,000, depending on all of the different services that child needs. And so the $600,000 that Cindy's talking about is probably 7 or 8 children.
And so that's good to know, to be able to explain when we get questions.
Exactly, because you're right, we have to provide for those needs for those special education
By law,
students.
we don't have an option. With public schools, this is the law.
That is correct. And if we aren't able to accommodate those needs in district, then we have to, have them go out of district, and we have the cost of doing that.
And that transportation runs 5 days, right?
Pardon me?
Is that transportation also done on Fridays for the special?
Oh, yes.
Yes, so
yes.
it's
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's not
The
just
buses
Monday
run
through Thursday, it's Monday.
Right, and also for EVA children, for our students that go to EVA. So they do run on Fridays for those particular purposes.
I have a question regarding the contracted services. That's one of the items that was recommended that we employ the psychologists in the future, so that will have an effect to potentially reduce
this, right? Exactly.
the salary
employing them ourselves rather than contract. Definitely. It's cheaper for us to employ a psychologist or a speech therapist than it is for us to pay the contracted price for it. Any other questions or clarifications that you would like? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We need a statement.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the revision of the 17-18 school year calendar.
So for those of you who have been here the last couple of meetings and my clicker has not worked, I did get home from the last governing board meeting and my husband had a present sitting on the kitchen counter of a clicker, and I just looked at him going, did I tell you I was struggling? He goes, no, but you know, I just knew that I have a better clicker than yours, and so. He is not watching our governing board meeting. I'm pretty sure that one. So there's a so at the last meeting I did present this. Oh, we're on the calendar. Yeah. Oh, wrong one. Edna. I almost put it all in one long running one, but thought escape. The next tab over. Okay, I'm going to find the beginning. There we go. With the 5 days that we had for the work stoppage, I wish I could say that we, like other districts, had an opportunity to just revise our calendar without having to make up days. But unfortunately, that was not the case. One of the things that the state has sent us is a document that we have to fill out, and if our governing board approves our revised calendar, that we will need to submit this to the Arizona Department of Education, demonstrating that we have met the instructional hours that are required by the state of Arizona, as well as making sure that our FTE information is not changing. So if we were to leave it alone as it is right now, we would have to say that our junior high students aren't 1.0 students, that we would have to change the FTE because of the number of hours that they have attended this year versus others. So there were two parts that it looked at. One is the instructional time remaining, subtracting the 5 days, and then what is left if you meet the instructional hours that are required. For example, many of our neighboring districts have said, okay, we're going to just deduct 5 days off of our calendar from a 180 to a 175 or to a 174, and we have enough instructional hours and we don't need to add anything new to our calendar. That wasn't the case when we did our numbers. The next piece that we had to look at was instructional time remaining, subtracting the original scheduled days. And so these were the two big paragraphs that were in the letter that we received from the state. So we started playing with our numbers. And so what does this look like? And so from the state of Arizona, elementary, actually, if you're a K-3 student, it's 712 hours for our K-3 kiddos. 4, 5, and 6, it's 890, and then high school is 720, and then our junior high is 1,000. When our schedule was developed for this year, the 17-18 school year, our instructional hours fell like this. So we are clearly over in elementary, we are barely over in junior high, and we are clearly over in high school. Now, what they count as instructional hours differs as well by configuration. So in your high school, right now we can count lunch, we can count passing time. I mean, it's very open. For our other configurations, it is very closed on what counts and what doesn't count. So 2 hours over the required amount by the state, and now we deduct 5 days of school. The instructional hours for the junior high are 413 minutes a day. There is a portion built into the junior high schedule that we've made an adjustment starting this past Monday, which is what they call their 5th hour. And so 5th hour is kind of an intervention time, or they've got a couple elective type things that they do during that time frame, but that was time that was determined before I got here last year that was not considered instructional time because it wasn't necessarily consistent. So what we've done to try to rectify making up 5 days of instruction that is missing is what we've done is we've took that 45-minute chunk of time, we've eliminated 5th hour, and we've reallocated those minutes into the other core classes. That bought us some time, but it didn't buy us 5 days worth. We needed to come back in, and so what you can see here is this is before 5 days of school we were out. This is where we sat. We were able to make up the time by adding 3.5 days, which brings us to 1,000 and about 20 minutes. We are just over that line. That is the minimum number of hours required by 7th and 8th grade students across the state of Arizona. Kristen, you have a question?
I do, about this 5th hour thing, if it's not an instructional class. I'm totally confused about why we have kids in a class if it's not instructional.
What you will talk to some of the staff, and I walked into, and very much instruction is taking place. They're doing, you know, math interventions. They're doing things. I don't know what that conversation looked like before this year. It's been there for a number of years.
And so we obviously at the beginning of this year did not address that. And so when it was, you said it was taken away?
What we did during the time that we were out, I worked very closely with Patty Smith and, okay, how can we make up the hours so that we hit that 1,000 mark? We said, okay, if we were to, when we had our first day off, which was that one Thursday, if it was just the one day and we eliminated the 5th hour plus the 2-hour cushion here, we would have been fine. It's when we added the additional days that it started becoming that there was no way we could make it up without putting some extra days into the calendar.
That did not help me in not
I'm so sorry.
at all. I'm lost there. I'm completely lost as to why. I just don't understand, but I don't want to interrupt your presentation anymore.
So I think, correct me, but what you're asking is how did it get removed and then added, the instructional time added back in? Is that?
It sounded like she added it back in, but what I didn't understand is if we remove 45 minutes of time, how did that not change when the children are released from school?
They made the other hours longer, so it counts for instructional time.
So we had like 5 minutes on the math class, 5 minutes on science, 5 minutes on social studies, so that it was distributed and it went back in. So prior to the 5 days out, there was 413 minutes of instructional time at the junior high. Now removing that 5th hour and actually redistributing that time, it went up to 459 minutes of instructional time. And so now we had 14 days of 459 brings us to the number that we needed to have. You know, one of the things that we really tried to do is knowing we have so many families that have Memorial Day, holidays, and they're going out of town, is how do we get this in as quickly as possible so that our families aren't impacted. We have staff members who have medical things that they have scheduled, that they have vacations, we've got Disneyland, all these different things. How can we do this by meeting the law, which is the instructional hours, that we didn't have a choice of choosing to do it or not. It needed to happen, as well as trying to meet some of those needs of our community and our staff. So the letter that, most of this information that you're getting now is from our staff letter. Due to the not meeting the minimum number of instructional hours, we knew that we needed to bring forth a revised academic calendar. The two things that really looked at as our objectives is meet the minimum state required instructional hours and then minimum intrusion to our families' summer schedules. In order to meet the state requirements, we needed to complete 14 full days. And so we have Monday through Friday this week, we have Monday through Friday next week, and then Monday through Thursday. That gives us the 14 full days. There was originally an early release day scheduled on May 23rd, but that by keeping any of the early release days, that brought us underneath that 1,000 mark. So the changes from the original calendar to this one, we had 146 School days, we are now at 144. We added 3 days to the student academic calendar, May 11th, May 18th, and May 24th. And we converted May 23rd to a full day, so that was a total of 3.5 days that were added to the academic calendar. In all of my letters that we sent out, our intent was never to change any of our events. The one event that we are afraid of, and past practice kind of dictates this, is that when Cactus Canyon is done with their promotion ceremony, the 8th grade students go home and they don't return. That would have left me 2.5 days of no instructional hours counted for my 8th grade students. With the walkout and with our Arizona Public, Diana Douglas, she has talked about not being in favor of that movement, and so we know that our schools are getting looked at much closer than they have been in the past when it comes to how did we make up this time, and he gets the public fund. The Goldwater Institute has been looking at our school districts as well, that my fear is that we are not going to have students for 2 days in our 8th grade, and 50% of our school is not going to be present. I have received about 5 phone calls from families. I know that our governing board members have as well. And so I am 100% open to figuring out a way that we can keep our Cactus Canyon promotion as close to where it should be, but I also need to make sure our kids are showing up. And so conversation I had with Mrs. Castellano earlier today is, one option that we threw out was, maybe moving it to Wednesday morning so it's closer to Tuesday, and they do an incentive day. And what they do for their incentive day is they get the bouncy house and water things, fun stuff that kids like. And I might even show up there myself, because I like a slide or whatever it may be. And then having that incentive day on the 24th, that last day of school, which then would prompt the kids to want to be there as well. So promotion, chances are the kids are leaving at the end of the promotion on Wednesday, but then if I get them back on that Thursday, that might be a possible solution. Other thoughts that we've had is, the hour being added to the end of the day. I needed to have about 19 hours, so that was going to add quite a bit of time onto the day. That was already a long school day, so that didn't seem like an option either. Another thought when it came to this one, one parent said, maybe you hold the promotion as you typically do, but they don't get the actual promotion certificate until that Thursday, or different things like that. So I am open to some suggestions. I just know that we need to meet the law, which is the 1,000 hours of instructional for our junior high kiddos.
Can we move the graduation? Does it have to be in the morning? I'm hearing that it conflicts. I don't know, but I heard from a parent that it conflicts with another student's elementary school one.
That is what I heard this afternoon myself, because I was told Wednesday morning was the 6th grade promotion, and then that it was supposed to be Tuesday morning, 8th grade. 6th grade was Wednesday morning, high school in the evening, but then I did hear today that one of the 6th grade promotions was now moved to Thursday at that time. So that was new information for me this afternoon.
Would evening be a possibility for the graduation?
We have Tuesday evening open, and we have Thursday evening open. And I think that would have to be a conversation with Mrs. Castellano and what the staff slots are.
And so the other thing I heard too was to add an hour at the end of a certain number of days, so that they didn't have to go. What was it? I forgot how many Fridays. Was it 2 or 3 Fridays?
Well, it's 3 Fridays for staff. The 11th, the 18th, and then we have the 25th, because one of these next slides is that we had staff out for 5 days. For us to meet the personnel contract requirements is we need to have them work for 5 days. So that's a different piece beyond the student academic calendar.
So can we split it? Can we have them go maybe a Friday, or instead of the 3 extra days, maybe add the hour? Do that for a certain number of days.
It wasn't enough. There wasn't there
And
was
then
too much
have 'em
time that needed to be 3.5 days.
In conjunction with going a Friday or two.
You're going to school like 10 hours.
I mean, the
It's a long time.
one option I see that is possible is get rid of the 24th, and we could probably take those hours and scatter them amongst the 11 days that would be remaining. It really is not a great answer for this one, I know there isn't.
It is kind of tough for the families that are coming in, you know, for that day. So you're trying to figure out a good way to.
So what I've said to parents is that we're going to have a conversation this evening at the governing board meeting, and hoping that we would have some opportunity to maybe come up, you know, lead me down a path that we'd be able to communicate to our families, possibly an adjustment to this one. I'm sorry?
Use the promotion ceremony as looking out.
Yeah, because they're in the school day, so yes, that won't hurt us.
Outside the school days, use those hours towards the morning.
That I would not be able to do. It has during the scheduled school time.
This explains it. This needs to go out to the public, and I know it got blasted on Facebook before anybody had a chance to talk about it, so it's become this huge issue, but the average person doesn't understand this, and that graph that was sent home, I have to be honest, it confused the hell out of me.
I know.
And I understand this stuff, so.
What I do know is that our neighboring districts are not having to come back to school, and that is what our community is hearing. And we are not in the same boat as our community because of our hours, the way that they were set. It is where it is. What I can say is that if I go back tomorrow and I look at how I could possibly remove that 24th and maybe scatter, but all I'm going to say is that I know whatever else gets sent out there, then there's going to be a whole other group of people who are going to come back and they're not going to be happy. The majority of the concerns that have come to me is I have staff members that have jobs on Fridays. I drive for the Salt River. I have a different, you know, my child has medical needs and I have these doctor's appointments scheduled on Fridays. I know that we're going to have some staff out on Friday. We will work that out. We're going to run the numbers tomorrow, and if I have to cover a junior high class, I would be happy to. If it's a kindergarten class, it's Heather. So we'll figure those things out, but we want to make sure that the kids are covered and that our classes are covered, and we know that there are families that are going to be displaced, and we're going to try to make it as minimal as possible. We started this past Monday.
But would any changes that made by the board start on Monday, then how quickly would this be?
If we adopt the calendar as is today, we would not be having an ability to change it with any adjustments until the 17th of April, which is when our next meeting is. May. Did I say another? I'm not going to say months anymore because they're all over the place. So.
Can I ask a question? You said you can't come, or after the 8th grade promotion, you're afraid that the kids won't come back for school. But if
that's been the tradition.
If you schedule it,
then will not come.
Well, no. But if you schedule it as a day, what happens, I'm just using hypothetically, if there was a sickness going on, that half the kids were out because of the flu, would that mean that those days don't count, or?
We have what is called current year funding. And so in the past, they would just look at your 40th day or 100th day.
Yeah.
And they still look at those days, but we also have to report our ADM on a daily basis. We capture it, and then every month we have to upload it. So we very well could just have nothing happen, but I do know that ADE and other organizations are looking at our districts in a different light this year than they have in others. And having 300 and probably 25 8th grade students just not show up is not going to be something that looks good for our school. So it's like, what's that carrot that I get to keep the kids here if the promotion is still on Wednesday, Tuesday morning?
You have
What
an
did you
8th
say?
grade,
A pool party.
Dr. Anderson, you have an 8th grade student right here. What did you just ask?
What did you think of it instead of
What do you think?
Because he's directly affected by this, and it's his deal.
It doesn't matter to me personally, like, just my classmates, just being around them, it's like, even if it was on a Tuesday, if it's on a Thursday, like, kids still aren't going to go to school just because of the extra days, and they hate it, but they just have to suck it up and realize that it's gonna happen, even if they don't. Like, if they call out sick, then it's just their problem. But if they really want to promote, then just go. It's not that hard.
They're going to go to promotion on Tuesday morning, but I need them back here on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, but that's their fault. It's okay to change it.
He's saying it's okay to change it to the 24th.
I think it was a big plan to execute it like that.
If we hold graduation Tuesday morning, continue school Tuesday afternoon, graduation, stay here, go back to school that day, can we not, any additional days, be it that Wednesday or that Thursday, students have to understand that, and their parents have to respectfully understand that we have to meet those instructional hours. If they don't, it's ultimately up to the parent to make sure that their child gets those instructional hours, or that child does not move ahead. So
They'll be able to call them in. It's more of a perceptual thing that half of our campus is being gone.
I just want to say, when I received the proposed schedule, it was better than I thought it would be. I was expecting Friday, having to come back on Monday for the full 5 days. So I was pleasantly, I mean, I get, this is unprecedented times. We've never had to do, no school district in Arizona, I don't think, has ever had to go through a situation like this. And it's not easy for kids, parents, teachers, families. The last week wasn't easy for them either. So I get that we're asking, you know, with these changes on top of what they've already been through over the last week. At the same time, I think it's a pretty good solution. We're an educational institution. Our kids deserve those 5 days of education. We're giving them 3.5 days rather than the 5 days. And so I think that's a fair compromise. And still meeting the minimum requirements, because I think, you know, if districts aren't prudently looking at that, they're going to find themselves in hot water down the road. But for if they don't meet those institutional or those instructional limits.
So worst case scenario, if we were to keep things as they originally were, they graduate when they're supposed to, and for some reason, this 300 or massive number of junior high school kids call in sick, what's the funding that we would lose?
That, you know, we can have a large number of kids call out sick at any time. I don't know if there would be repercussions or not. I'm not willing to call ADE to ask them that question, because I don't want to put a little bigger spotlight on us. I don't have that answer.
So what I'm saying is, just like the situation last week was out of our control, it's out of our control if we keep this the same, provide those additional instructional hours. It's out of our control if the kids choose to call out, they choose to call out. That's also out of our control. We are providing those instructional days so that, because by keeping it the way it was originated, it would probably cause a lot less impact on families. I'm hearing families are coming from out of state, from, you know, they have plane tickets and everything that can't be changed or it's really expensive. And so, just worst case scenario, if we were to keep it the same as it is, the graduation, I mean, provide the extra days of instructional, you know, the extra instructional days, and if those kids call in sick, it's not that much different than what, it's out of our control. I'm trying to understand.
I think we have control of changing the promotion, so I think that's where it would come back to us. But what I can do is basically look at having a conversation with Mrs. Castellano and see about moving that incentive day to the 24th and possibly leaving that where it is. And you come in on incentive day, you actually get the certificate on that day, as well as have some fun in the sun kind of thing.
And I mean, the events of what happened over the last week were not in our control, but our response to it certainly is, and that dictates the outcome that we get.
I have no suggestions on this part of it because I'm not involved, but I know how hard it is when they change schedules on grandparents coming in out of town. We've had a couple of situations where we missed things because of schedules. But what about a Saturday? As a kid that was raised where it's in the mountains of Colorado, we had to have a lot of snow before we had a snow day. But one winter we had a lot of snow, and we had to make up like 2 or 3 days. And we went on Saturday, and yes, we griped, and yes, we cussed, and but it didn't. In the long run, it really didn't hurt.
Well, she's leading me into the next slide, I believe, which is how are we going to make up the time for our teachers and staff? Because as I said, they need to make up 5 days. They were originally not scheduled to work on Saturdays. Their last day of contract was the 24th. So school was supposed to end on the 23rd, early release day. They come in on the 24th, they check out, and they're good to go. So what we wanted to do is that we needed to add 5 days in for our non-12-month employees. And so we added Friday, the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th. So we have the student days, and then we have teacher checkout. What part of the contract, or part of 301, is that requires our teachers to be present on the very last day of their contract, which would have been May 24th. And if you're there on May 24th and you meet the criteria of 301 monies, you get the 301 monies. So we knew we had these 3 days that we could do very easily. But we also knew that we have, once again, staff members who have vacations planned, surgeries, so on. So we wanted to give them an option on how to make up those 2 other days. And so as a site, you know, if Apache Junction High School, they have to choose one or the other. So half the teachers can't come in on one day and half the teachers come in another day, because the principal also needed to make up their time for it. So option that we gave is Saturday, May 12th. So that's going to be a 6-day week for some people. Or Saturday, May 19th, or May 19th, so there's 2 days there. Or option 2 was coming in on the 29th and 30th after Memorial Day. 4 out of our 5 schools chose to come in after Memorial Day. So that's for our certified staff, but we also know that we have classified staff members that did not have an opportunity to work. And so we figured this is an opportunity for us to have professional development with our paraprofessionals, with our transportation department. And so we are bringing our classified staff in as well to work with students on these days, to help out on the campus, and then get some professional development on the days that their campus would be coming in. So we want to make sure that we know that their pay cycle, we received a paycheck last Thursday. Everybody's paycheck was not impacted by the days off, but this next paycheck going out on May 18th, we know our classified staff members will have 5 less days on there, and that is an impact on them. So we want to make sure that we give them that opportunity to earn the money that they would have earned on a typical schedule. We have a regular pay on June 1st, and they will get a balance of their contract work agreement for certified and classified staff on June 7th. And then on June 29th, those certified staff members that qualify for 301 will get that money. And what we did, so because these days were optional, we made it be that day right there that they would need to be present for checking out so that they would qualify for their 301 monies.
And they chose half days over full days?
We looked at what would be considered, they have to be 5 days. So where some of the schools have said, can we just make that a 9-hour day and call it good? No, it's actual physical days. And so what's the minimum amount of time that we can call them? It was a full day. 4.5 hours.
So do the board members have any other questions or discussion?
I just want to ask, if the junior high has the graduation
promotion,
the promotion, will they not have their fun day then? on Thursday? I mean, no, they would have it on
Well, it's originally scheduled for next Friday.
Okay.
So it would just be moving it from Friday to this particular day.
Okay.
As a incentive, as
Right.
a carrot to get those kiddos in there.
Does anybody else have a question? Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Cruz?
We're going to move on to the instructional coach and curriculum manager job description.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. This is pretty straightforward. This relates directly to the strategic plan information that you received from Dr. Anderson last week. So we talked about changing some of the job duties, shifting some responsibilities with the existing members of the team. And so what we're offering for y'all to actually read before the next meeting and you take action are job descriptions for secondary instructional coach and elementary instructional coach, and then the curriculum manager. So we know that there's a need to make sure that we have additional supports in place for our teachers. That's something that came through loud and clear. I don't know if y'all recall from the spring, but I was totally impressed with the Salary Advisory Committee talking about the need to provide additional support and how high on their list that was for their colleagues. And so we're able, again, I believe Dr. Anderson references at our last board meeting using grant funding to make some changes so that we can provide that additional support. So again, we've got the job descriptions here for y'all to have an opportunity to take a look at. Certainly if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. I will offer that a colleague of mine has an eagle eye, so there's some editing that's going to happen, and we'll make sure we push those out to you. And we're thankful to get that good feedback. Also know that we're going to be having a design thinking day. We're going to bring in our principals, some of our instructional leaders. We're going to ask that members from the association and also some teacher leaders come and are part of a design thinking day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that framework from IDEO and Stanford, but I've facilitated those kinds of events in the past. And so what we're going to look at are end users, which are our new teachers and our continuing teachers that we're looking to retain. And so we're going to ask them what their needs are and then kind of work to design a program, surrounding those needs to support, again, the ongoing improvement and long-term retention, really, of our staff. And so these positions are directly related to that work, and they're directly related to the strategic plan, and then also, again, that reorganization of duties that Dr. Anderson referenced at the last meeting.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to the strategic plan implementation.
So 2 weeks ago, we talked about implementing the strategic plan, and we had phase 1, our new mission and our vision. We had our core values, our motto, our kids, our community, reaching for the future. We have our goals, and then what were our first steps for implementation. And we talked about some restructuring of Mrs. Wallace and Dr. Cruz, and sharing some of our curricular responsibilities for our elementary. Mrs. Wallace will be taking the lead there, and for our junior high and our high school, we have Dr. Cruz. So you saw this. And then we talked about some other staffing adjustments. We want to convert our academic facilitator to manager of curriculum, having some additional duties surrounding curriculum, instruction, implementation. She is currently funded by Title II and M&O, and so we would increase the Title II portion of her salary to fit within the range of manager of curriculum. We want to add 1 instructional coach. And this was specifically for elementary, and that would be paid for out of our Title II funds. And then increase the TOA assessment from 12 hours per week to 15 hours per week. And then wanting to make sure that we have data so that we can provide to our teachers in our schools on where are some areas that we need to be focused on. This is what we're asking you to recommend today. There is one other staffing one that I would be asking that we could hopefully recommend on the 17th of April, and that's increase our public relations specialist hours to reflect full-time status. additional duties surrounding communication to our community, focusing with some social media and then marketing. And then the other piece that we talked about was AVID for Cactus Canyon Junior High. We looked at bringing this in next year for our 7th and 8th grade. We did have the representative out on Monday that met with Courtney and Heather, and some of the things that came to light is we need to have the AVID library, which is a couple of $1,000s that provides access to certain materials that are directed within the work that they would be doing at the school. And then we also, which we knew we needed to have somebody at the district level who would be overseeing the fidelity of the training and fidelity of the program, which is what would fall under the curriculum manager as the AVID district director. I know that I've heard that there are concerns about the request that we had for AVID today. That was just numbers we needed to make sure we put in there. So we have Southwest Airlines, and it was $500 and something per ticket. Today we get on American Airlines, and for $209 you can get the same round trip ticket. And so we know that that PO is high, but we also know it's not going to surpass that. So we're going back and we're revisiting. We have not booked any airline tickets. We have not booked any hotel. We have the conference on hold for us that we would be able to register for tomorrow. There were 2 options that were given to us by the vendor. They had openings in Colorado and in Texas. Queen Creek was not available. They have 800 people scheduled for that one, but we would be able to get into that training next year. It just was not possible at this time of the year. So we do know that we have 8 staff members that we want to send from Cactus Canyon. As I said before, we looked at wanting to get math, science. We wanted to get the different core content so that there was lots of support on that campus, lots of people that knew about the programming so that they could help support the teachers. And then we also have a 9th person, which is our curriculum manager that would also be going to the training. Courtney is one of the staff members from Cactus Canyon, along with 7 teachers. And that is coming from the student success monies, and those were monies that were given to our district about 2-3 years ago. Somewhere in there, she's nodding her head, which is about $70,000, and it is specifically for programming at our schools. And so that will be a portion, and then we will continue next year looking at AVID, how are we able to bring that to our high school level.
Do those funds get replenished?
No, they do not. So that would be something that we would build into our M&O budget in the future. But right now, this is money that was set aside for this purpose.
What's the difference in cost if we wait and do it locally?
If we wait a year, it would be the cost of the airline tickets.
If we do it locally?
No, it would be that we'd have to reduce the cost of the airline tickets and then the hotel.
Okay, so we don't have a cost locally per person, what it would cost? If we were to go to Queen Creek for training, what would it cost per person?
I'm going to look at Heather because she has a
honestly, she didn't give me those prices because they weren't available. But I mean, I can check on that, but she didn't. And the one in Queen Creek is this year. It's not, they don't have plans for what's going to be next year. So her hope is there's a local one. She can't promise that there's a local one.
I think what you're saying, or based on our conversation this morning, is that the training that you do for first year schools, there wasn't an offering in Arizona for that. Is that correct, Heather?
Well, the one at Queen Creek was full by the time we got it.
Okay, so it was for first year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the one in Colorado filled up. The one in Texas filled up, but they saved us the spots. So they're filling up, and the one in Texas right now is filling up. They've got us on there, but there's a wait list.
So to do the out-of-state one, will come out of the student fund, right? And then next year, we can do the local one,
Yeah,
which would be cheaper to come out of the M&O dollars.
but that could still come out of the student success monies next year.
And we don't know that there'll be a local one that's an implementation one next year. It's a, like, you just don't know, because there's not a schedule yet for next year. So
The one this year is the implementation.
all the summer institute ones are implementation ones.
But she cannot guarantee next summer's
That there'll be a local
institute.
summer institute.
So will they have to travel again next year?
Could possibly happen. So we don't know. I did need to register our governing board members if they wanted to attend the Pathway to School-Wide Leadership Training, the one that's in Queen Creek. And so if you are interested in this, please let me know today, and then tomorrow we can get you guys signed up for that. The piece that I want to emphasize that I am very excited about with AVID is that next step that we have available to us in Apache Junction. Our neighboring districts do not have this option, and I need to somehow figure out how Courtney can put it into her promotion speech, and that we keep bringing this up to our families, because we are located in Pinal County and we have the Central Arizona College, our kids have some opportunities that you do not get in Maricopa County. And one of those is that you can take 5 credits during your high school years for free. I used to have a budget in Paradise Valley for community college, so that if a student needed to go, I needed to make sure that we paid the college. Well, this is a free opportunity for our kiddos. But the one that I'm most excited about is the Future Scholarship Educational Initiative that allows our kids to get 2 full years of community college paid for free. And so, you know, with that conversation happening here in AVID, starting in our junior high and then building that up throughout our high school, that we would have an opportunity to get our kids to see a future that may or may not consist of community college. It may consist of the university, it may consist of vocational training, or walking right into the workplace, but at least they have that vision for that future. And so,
is AVID the only thing that qualifies them for those 2 programs?
No, this is, we've had this for years, but that gives the culture and the mindset of helping our campus kind of pull together there.
So we're paying for a culture and a mindset.
It's about kids and their learning. The graduation rate, I mean, the research of AVID is graduation rate, it's kids being success post high school. And those are the pieces that we're looking at. Questions?
Why do we need to send that many people? Why can't we send some administrators to come back and then do the training, to come back and train the other staff? Why do we have to send that many? And what if the people that we send leave the district with all the people we have resigning right now?
That's always, anytime you bring any type of program, you try to make the best choices on the individuals to attend. What I will say is that when they talk about implementation, this is the recommendation of AVID, is to send a team of 8 from a campus. My experience from implementation is, you know, when I did right from the beginning on my campus, I had 1 teacher from every grade level go, because now you had that core of 4 teachers in 4th grade, but you had somebody who was the trainer of trainers. They were there to give that individual attention to those other people. If we only have 2 people or 3 people on that campus, I would be fearful that the fidelity would not be present. We want to make sure that people have the buy-in and they're excited, and that they have these different individuals to be their go-to people. Courtney's going to be available to her staff, but maybe not as much as the science teacher that's down the hall, or the social studies person who's across the hall. So that is the recommendation from AVID, and that would be what our recommendation would be, to send that group. Ideally, it's not going to be the price that you saw on the PO. We're going to come back and make sure that the airline tickets are the least expensive, our hotels, and we'll be revisiting that, and I can send that information over to you.
Can we maybe see what it would cost to drive versus fly? Have like a breakdown? Right. 12, 13.
With the cost of gasoline going up, it's not going to be practical.
I will tell you.
I mean, I
that-
know Southwest is super cheap right
that
now.
to do the mileage from here to Flagstaff was like $60, $80 of reimbursement. So driving to Texas, I think, is going to clearly be over $500 of. But we can look at that.
Oh, sorry. I think this is a huge investment in our students' future and thousands of students to come through that middle school, and the things that are going to be made available to them and the opportunities that will be available to them as a result, and investing in ensuring the success of the program throughout the whole school is imperative for it to succeed.
I do look at this as an investment in the 650 kids that are at the junior high. But you know, one of the things, as I said before, when I said to Courtney, this is something that I don't want to bring forward unless you have the buy-in and your staff is excited. 26 out of 26 staff members voted yes, we want this, and these are staff members that are returning. Yeah.
And I think we want to do it right. This is what's recommended. I think we need to do it. And I think it's an amazing program for our students.
You're going to bring down the travel expenses, I can promise you that.
I wish I could go to the Twin Creek thing on June 1st. I'm going to be out of town for a week. Any other questions, comments?
I would just say, I've not ever taught it, but I'm somewhat familiar with this program. And I would encourage anyone who has a reservation about this, it's going to take some time. But if you wait 5 or 6 years until those kids graduate high school and you go to the Avid graduation for high school, you will be blown away, because we will see kids who never saw a productive future, especially college or anything like that. You will see those kids be prepared to be something special in this world. And this is a program. I'm not a big fan of a lot of these programs because there's a lot of them out there. This program is successful, and it's successful with a population of kids that doesn't always see that end game for themselves and their families.
I don't think anybody's arguing it. I think it's great. And we've all, yeah, it is. It's the cost of going out of state. The out-of-state training is what's the big issue.
But so the thing that you have to remember is that you have no control. We have no control. They recommend a team of 9 because throughout the school year, coordinating staff have to be trained at a minimum 8 more times during the school year. You want other trainers from different core subjects, because different groups of people on that campus are going to get trained in different strands. So it's not everybody sitting in a room getting all the same information. There's commonalities for everybody to use. They'll use Cornell notes across the school. But the science department has different strands than the math department, because what they teach the students and how they teach the students to think and to learn what they're looking at and trying to do future-wise is going to look different in each classroom. So the reason that there's a team of 8 is because Courtney goes as a leader. We send one teacher to go that's going to run both elective classes, so that person's going to see kids every day in an elective and keep up with them and mentor them and talk to them about year 13, bring in college recruiters and do that. So that's their job. Then there's the math, the science, 2 readings, another science, and a history person. And the district director was one that we thought we could go without. You cannot go without it, because the only way to get access to all the training modules is through the district director library. And so you have to train that person. The other thing is that gives us another person to bring in, so that district trainer can start training the other principals and start training other staff members to get them going. So the hotels, everything that we have is the state bottom line number. Except the flights, because I just chose what was available on Southwest that day. But like she said, Dr. Cruz found airline flights for cheaper. But there's a state rate for the hotel, a state rate for the meals. So the other thing, I have the breakdown of the rest of it, but you have to purchase a library. So if we bring the high school on next year, we have to purchase those materials for the library. So it's a big investment, but it's an investment that will keep growing.
Okay, so I know you haven't voted on this yet, but if we vote to move forward with this, who would like to attend the June 1st?
I would like to. Would love to, but I can't. I'm somewhere else.
No? Okay. Not gonna be able to make it work. And any last questions?
I'd like to know from Courtney, she's excited about this.
Are you excited for it?
Courtney, how excited are you?
Oh, very. I believe it.
I am too.
Very
upset. I'm excited.
Yes. I think it's perfect for our kids, and we're already looking at identifying kids and my teachers. Our culture at our school is just fits right in, and we'll grow that experience. We want it to grow in high school.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay, we're going to move on to the proposed issues for consideration for the 19th political agenda. So we'll do this now.
Okay, so the Arizona School Board Association every year does collects information from all of the governing boards regarding each board's specific issues for consideration for their political agenda. And Mr. Weaver, if you want to speak to this, I know you were the delegate in prior years. If you kind of want to speak to that, and then we can maybe go through, read the political agenda items and kind of tally who thinks they're top 5 or top 7, and then try to put them together and compile our list.
I have done that in the past. I'm not able to do this now, but going forward. Do we have all the
So we
agenda
have,
items? I'm looking at
yes. So I can go through and read.
So I'll give you the process. So we make recommendations of if last year's political agenda was unacceptable, was something that we're in favor of or not in favor of, and if we have any others, then there's an allowance for 2 or 3 additional items that we could add. And I've done this a few times, then about 60 people sit in a big circle in a square in a room and spend about 6 or 8 hours hashing over them to come up with a political agenda for ASBA, and then that goes before the membership at the summer conference.
So they've provided a list of items, and we have choose 5 priorities with 2 additional items for consideration. So maybe if we just kind of take turns, each read them, and then each of us can, I guess, vote, for lack of a better word, if that is an item that is important to us, and then we can tally them and come up with our 5. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I'm trying to find them. I only have the first page online here.
I don't either.
It's right there. That's what you're looking at. That's it, right there. Yeah.
See,
There's 2 pages left. No, so each bullet
print all
point
those
is a
big long
different
things.
agenda item. Yeah, let's read the first one.
First one is provide additional state funding for nationally competitive salaries to attract, recruit, and retain talented teachers.
So I have marked that one.
That was my number 1.
Anybody else on that one?
Can she repeat that?
Provide additional state funding for nationally competitive salaries to attract, recruit, and retain talented teachers.
Yeah, that's always number 1 with a bullet with the whole group. So.
Okay, so the next one is, so we have one vote for that one?
It was my number one.
Okay, so.
I think it's a gimme.
Yeah.
So what's the vote?
The problem is there's like 10 of them that are
I
giving.
know, there's so many.
Yeah, that's.
So the second one is revise the school finance formula to provide a stable revenue source less reliant on the general fund or the annual legislative appropriation, fund the implementation and ongoing costs of Arizona standards, assessments, and technology, allow districts the option to operate individual schools for 200-day school years and increase accompanying funding to 8% from 5% to improve student achievement, establish statewide poverty weights within the school funding formula. I had that one.
I had all of them.
So the school funding formula was created in the late 70s or early 80s, and it's never been revised. It has been hacked away at. And so these are basically corrections to that school funding formula to try and bring that up to what they actually agreed to 40 years ago.
Okay, Ms. Rizzi, do you want to read the next one?
Fully fund full-day kindergarten and include kindergarten students in the override calculations.
I had that one.
I had that one.
Currently, teachers are funding full-day kindergarten because everybody has it. The school isn't funded. So that extra half day is being funded out of M&O, which comes out of teachers and other salaries, other employees' pockets.
So would that be our second choice? Or third?
Okay, Ms. Garcia?
Renew, expand, and improve Prop 301.
1 out of 3. So it's been renewed. It's kind of a moot issue because it's not going to be expanded.
Well, and if you revise the
Herculean.
finance formula, then you have less of it. It's still important, but.
They're different things,
Yeah.
but yes. Sufficiently fund market competitive salaries for all non-teaching staff.
Oh, I didn't know if we were going to talk about it. Okay. So am I in this one? Provide adequate ongoing resources to comply with at least minimum school facility standards to ensure school district equipment and facilities are adequately maintained.
Yeah.
It's like we want all.
Restored, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not going to be out of the
It's
realm
not
of
easy.
possibility that we agree with all of these.
Right.
because
No,
they're pretty standard
with my first
stuff.
time there, I agreed with 10
Yeah.
of them. I mean, I agree with all of them, but 10 of them.
Right.
Restore district additional assistance reductions. Obviously, yes, we want that.
My turn.
Yeah.
Enact policy that does not unduly discourage local investment in school facilities.
So that is, I believe that targets the efforts by the legislature to wordsmith things that go on the ballot so that they look like tax increases, or even if they're continuations of overrides and bonds, that they look like tax increases to discourage people from voting for them.
That one. Eliminate unfunded mandates and administrative burdens.
Self-explanatory. Fully fund JTEDs. And I believe some or all of that has been accomplished in the budget.
Some for sure.
Yeah, I believe it's pretty close to being fully funded. I
Yeah,
could be corrected, but I think it's pretty fully funded right now. JTEDs. I think they got their fully funded.
When we went to the EVIT consortium dinner, Dr. Downey stated that they were going to be receiving their.
Right. I think this year they got fully funded. So.
Okay, protect segregation funding from any cuts or
That's
modifications.
This, for those who don't know, desegregation funding applies to basically about a handful of districts around the state, and we are not one of them. That doesn't mean we don't care. So I'm trying to remember whether that desegregation funding, it was messed with.
They increased the property tax amount of 40%.
They put it on the,
deseg districts.
that's, you're right, they
On
put it
the
on the
homeowners.
homeowners, burden on the homeowners to pay that. Yes, thank you.
Provide greater equity in funding and access for exceptional student services within the public school system. I didn't have that.
Adequately fund the cost of student transportation.
I guess you have anything
No,
to say on that?
no, okay.
Provide funding for preschool programs.
This is a new category. Maximize local control and flexibility in managing funds and programs. This is, I'll just make a comment again. This is an ASBA thing about local control and allowing districts to have total control or total local control over all aspects of the budget. So this is a personal preference. I believe that there are times when those things need to be directed in a certain place, because otherwise they don't get to where they need to go. So that's a personal comment.
Okay, allow school districts greater flexibility in the divestiture of property of addressed population and course needs.
Change the override budget increase language to better reflect what voters are being asked to support.
I think we went over that so many times. I don't think they're ever going to change that. We've asked every year.
Oppose legislative intrusion on school site budgeting decisions.
Anything?
Ditto.
Support policies that recognize and respect teaching as a profession.
Increase the compulsory attendance age from 16 to 18 years. This is kind of an annual wish of the ASBA. It's a bigger debate than one might think, because there's a school of thought that says that if a kid is 16, 17 years old and they are absolutely not invested or interested in being in school, that keeping them there is not productive and a burden. Not my thought. That's not my opinion. That's the argument that's out there. So that's the argument that keeps it at 16 years and doesn't advance it to 18 years. So.
Enact research-based reform of the English language learning model of instruction to improve student achievement that does not segregate English language learners from English-speaking peers, integrates reading, writing, and oral language instruction, and incorporates multiple assessment measures to demonstrate English proficiency.
We have a system that shovels kids through ELA programs just to get them out of the legal requirement to teach them appropriately.
I'm going to do both of these because they're kind of related in a way. Fully restore 9th grade CTE JTED eligibility and funding to allow students to explore career fields and or certification completion, and then separately allowing JTEDs to service students through the age of 21. There's on the back side, there's a couple more.
Establish financial and academic transparency for all institutions that accept public funds.
Yeah, that's that's huge. Read the Arizona Republic. There's a big article in there about that. We have institutions that receive public funds, taxpayer dollars, who have almost no oversight or accountability to the taxpayers. And the legislature just this year enacted a piece of the budget that reduced the amount of transparency for certain public institutions. With me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Repeal any program that gives public funds for private schools, ESAs, STOs, or prevent any future expansion. Ditto.
Require comparative classroom spending audits for school districts and all other instructions that accept public funds, and define classroom spending as both instructional spending and student support spending.
Lastly, reform current year funding to a system that provides districts with appropriate stable annual budgeting ability and technical reliability. Okay.
You want additional ones?
And does anybody have any additional ones that are not listed?
I have an additional one.
Of course you do.
Of course. I would like to encourage the ASBA to support, I would say, any initiative, but we currently have an initiative that creates a funding stream for education. Education funding will never improve until we get a funding stream dedicated to education.
That can't be touched.
I would like to suggest that to the ASBA.
Okay, so are we all in agreement that that's one we'll have on our top 5? Okay, does anyone want to propose the other 4 and the 2 additional for consideration?
Do you need a motion for that, or are you just looking for a
Well,
thumbs up?
we're just in discussion right now, and
That's what I
we'll
thought.
do that.
Okay, I'm good.
So we could go through them, and then when we do the agenda item, we can do
Okay.
that. Okay, so any other questions on that?
You can have that back. Is that it? Right?
No? Okay. We're going to go to special meeting on May 17th at 6 p.m. And I'll let Dr. Anderson speak to this.
Yes, we are currently only scheduled to have one governing board meeting in the month of May due to graduation and the other events that fall in that 4th week of the month. And so we are proposing to have a second governing board meeting on May 17th at 5 p.m. At what? 6. At 6 p.m. So that we can continue some of the district business that needs to be done, from hiring and moving some programs forward.
There's a retirement regulation also.
At 4:30. At 4:30.
4:30.
I did not hear what you
Just
just
retirement
retirement.
regulations at 4:30. Anybody have any questions or conflicts?
Yeah, I have a conflict, but I probably can work it out. There's a Chamber of Commerce meeting that night, mixer.
Well, I was
going to-
I'll be here.
I can get around it.
Okay, we're going to move on to the specific items of district business. Number A, or item A, the approval of the new Apache Junction High School principal for the 2018-19 school year. Dr. Angela, I apologize if I Tremokas. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam President, I motion to approve Dr. Angela Tremokas for the new Apache Junction High School principal for the 2018-19 school year.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would. I think we're darn lucky, and I'm really appreciative that Dr. Tremokas has opted to come here, and I want to, from from this individual, I'd like to offer my support in whatever way I could, and wishes for great success going forward. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I trust Dr. Anderson and Dr. Cruz with their judgment, and this is a really important position in our district. So just, you know, and I expressed this to a couple earlier, that talking with people, contacts that I have and contacts of contacts about Dr. Shimo, I'm gonna mess it up, Shimokas,
Dr. C.
Was astoundingly, yes, amazing. She's aces, so I'm super excited.
I'm excited as well.
And if you want to come up and say,
Come on up.
Or Dr. Cruz.
Somebody?
Somebody.
Give us some info.
Well, I will be brief because obviously you guys have been very busy tonight with all of your decisions and all the things going. I'm extremely excited to join this community and to be part of AJ High School, and also to be able to bring a family feel in, because my husband also wants to come and volunteer, a former principal, and I'm very much looking forward to that. You know, I decided I have to look the part tonight. If I'm going to walk the walk, I wanted to be able to look the part. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in public education for a very long time, and I've been an administrator in public education for a long time. In fact, this was my tipping year, because I also was in the classroom for 18 years prior to becoming an administrator. So I feel blessed and very fortunate to be able to join this team and fabulous administrators here that I'll be able to work with and be a part of. So thank you for the opportunity. Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Item B, the approval of the 2017-18 budget revision. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam President, I motion to approve the 2017-18 budget revision.
And we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. The approval of the calendar revision for the 2017-18 school year. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam, oh, go ahead.
I'm going to give
Mr. Weaver.
Madam President, I would make a motion to accept administration's calendar revision for the 2017-18 school year, with the possibility of continuing to look at options that might satisfy more people, but I'd like to approve this calendar revision so that we can move forward.
Second.
Ms. Kimball seconds. Any discussion?
I personally would like to keep the promotion for 8th grade on the original date that we had, and possibly maybe make that May 24th, like Dr. Anderson was talking about. Was it May 24th with an incentive for the bounce houses and stuff, and then just hold the parents and the kids accountable for coming the 2 days after. That way families that have already made plans are able to attend the promotion, and it's not going to mess up anybody's schedule or allow parents not to make it for whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure every parent wants to watch their child's promotion, so that would be my recommendation.
So are you okay with Mr. Weaver's motion with the possibility of moving that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that if we can continue to look at options.
Any further discussion?
I agree. I don't have a problem with the calendar changes, but it's the promotion. It seems to be what's caused most of the distress, and so.
And are you okay with the motion as read?
Yes and no, because there's no guarantees, and
right.
so I mean, it's great that we're going to look into it, but it doesn't guarantee. So
right now the motion is to accept what has been presented with the option of change
possibility
possibilities
of promotion.
of just the promotion.
Within the instructional hours as
Right.
presented.
Yep. Any further discussion?
Dr. Anderson, so if we approve this motion to move forward, then are we looking at just the next day or couple days, or what are you thinking to be able to kind of?
My hope is that Ms. Castellano and I will be able to chat tomorrow. There is a principals meeting, so she is up here at the district office, and for us to come up with something that is workable, chance for her to talk with her staff to make sure that it's workable. My hope is to send that communication out to the families by tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Approval of the director's job description.
Madam President, I motion to approve the director's job descriptions that were presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Approval of the strategic plan implementation.
Madam President, I motion to approve the strategic plan implementations.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Discussion and possible action for employees out-of-state travel to Dallas, Texas on June 19th to 22nd, 2018 to attend the AVID training for 9 Cactus Canyon Junior High staff in the amount not to exceed $36,424.49. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam President, I motion to approve the out-of-state travel to Dallas, Texas on June 19th. Wait. What was that?
19th to 22nd.
19th to the 22nd, 2018 to attend the AVID training for 9 Cactus Canyon Junior High staff not to exceed the $36,424.49.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have concerns. I understand that we have funding of, that can only be utilized for student programs in the amount of $70,000. This would utilize half of that. We don't know for sure that there's going to be any additional funding to come into this for these programs, and so it concerns me to use that amount at one time. I really would have preferred that we could find some training locally. I understand it's a timing issue, but I also, and I think it's a great program. I think that it's definitely something that we voted on exploring it at the last meeting and bringing it to our district. There's no doubt that it's an investment in our kids, and this is something that we want. But I also think we need to be really careful about the public's perception. It's definitely an investment, but it's something that we haven't had, and I don't know that waiting until we can get the training locally is asking too much. I'm very concerned about public perception in spending this kind of money for training right now. And I get that we have the money there. I get that it's been there for a period of time, a couple years. But again, once it's gone, it's gone. We have no guarantee that we'll get it back. We may have other programs and other things that we want to explore and bring to the district. And I just think it's unfortunate that it came to us at this time where the training here locally was already full. I can't right now justify spending that amount. I can't do it. I can't do it. We definitely want it. There's no doubt it's investing in our kids. Our kids deserve it. Our staff deserves it. But I can't justify that amount of spending right now.
So, I mean, in my opinion, this funding source it's coming from is specifically for program development. It's been sitting there for 3 years. it is our responsibility to provide educational opportunities for kids that will impact them for the rest of their lives. The travel expenses, while yes, they are a couple, $8,000–9,000, it to me is not worth prolonging that. So 612 or 42 junior high school students do not experience that program and the opportunities that comes with it.
I agree. I think it's an amazing program. I think we waited far too long to implement it. And I think it's so worth the money and the investment and educating our kids. And these kids come through this system one time. We need to give them those opportunities. And like Jody said, there's going to be kids that are going to wait another year to be able to experience this program. And I don't think we should wait. I think all these kids deserve the best education we can give them. And I really love this program for them, and I think those kids need this program.
Any further discussion?
So we started exploring options like this 3 years ago. So for 3 years we've discussed, we've talked about, we've investigated, we've done field trips, we've done you name it. And the other, and I think that the time is now. The other part of it is, as teachers, if you don't do it right, it doesn't get done. It just doesn't work. I mean, I know from teachers that got professional learning community training through their own districts that was watered down, instead of going someplace and getting a concentrated, really, and it becomes something different than it's supposed to be. And I think it's a different thing, but I think this has the danger of being something completely different if we don't invest what we need to and do it now. And quite honestly, local trainings are cheaper and they're nicer, but you know what? You go home at night, you worry about your family, you're not in that concentrated learning environment for that space of time. And sometimes there's value in going away and doing something that's more concentrated and more team oriented than to go on the cheap. So I am 100% in favor of moving forward now.
Any further discussion?
I don't know that it's going on the cheap to get training locally. I don't understand how the training locally would be any different than training. The problem of the expense is not the training. We're not arguing the training. We're arguing the expense of the travel. And this is something that was brought to the board at the last meeting. And now at the very next meeting, we're being asked to spend $36,000 for traveling because we're too short to get into training here locally. I don't understand how you can consider that going cheap. The training is what it is. Is it less training here locally then? Is that what you mean?
I just explained myself. I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, I don't understand what going cheap means. I think that was a cheap shot.
I think there is value into that group of people receiving the training, spending the concentrated time together. I think there is value to that. And I'm not sure if that's what you were meaning or not, but that's what I heard you say.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to add, I have a lot of family and friends that have this program in their district, and sitting down and having conversations, like Mike's right, 3 years ago the board was talking about this. Oh. We didn't move forward with it. We keep talking about everything, this is for the kids. It's time that we implement something into our district like this to, hopefully draw more attention. We want to talk about student enrollment and stuff. This would be a great program. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure every parent would agree that, something like this, it causes them to critically think in a team environment. They're organized, their reading skills, preparing them for college. I understand the money situation, but I think it's something that we need to move forward with. I think that our students, and talking with staff in other districts and stuff, you definitely have to have the right training to make it work. Mm-hmm. So
that's amazing. And even though this training is a way, the following years we can look at different local training, which would be a little bit cheaper. So,
any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
That motion passes with a vote of 4-1. Item G, the approval of the proposed issues for the 2019 political agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam President, I submit a motion for the proposed issues as discussed, plus the one or two. Did we have two additional? The two additional that we added to ASBA for consideration.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Second.
Ms. Kimball says
Oh, I
second.
didn't.
So do we have, we've decided on our
Yeah, I was gonna say,
delegate
which one did you pick? We did it, I think that motion might need to be amended because we
We need
didn't
to
like choose
specify
them.
what you pick. What is your top five?
Thought we
The top five, but we
Oh,
didn't choose.
the top five?
Top five.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why I didn't make
See, I don't follow. I wasn't a very good student. I don't follow directions worth a damn.
Should have taken the other class.
With the additional items, so there's actually 7 that we need to choose.
Okay. So we have the top 2 on the first page.
Yes.
Provide additional state funding and provide adequate ongoing resources. Restore district additional assistance. Second one on the second column. I go out of order
So
too.
that's 3.
Fully fund all-day K.
Yes. And then the one that you came up with.
Yeah, which is to support initiatives for funding streams to fully fund education.
Is everybody okay with those 5? And then for the additional 2? So we have additional 2. I would say repealing any programs that give public funds for private schools, ESAs, and STOs, and prevent any future expansion. And either the current year funding or the transparency for institutions receiving public funds.
Yeah, either would be good.
Right, they're all good. That's what's hard. I like
Current year funding, so is everyone okay with the repealing public funds and then the current year funding?
Sure.
For the additional? Okay, Mr. Weaver, would you like to amend your motion?
I amend my motion to, in consideration of the items as we just read them. So, I'm not going through them again. Probably lose them.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 5-0. Information items, requests for future agenda items. Anybody have anything that we haven't already addressed during the agenda?
Yes, I just looked at my Post-it note and I am apologizing now. I do want to introduce our Director of Transportation.
Oh.
She is here today.
Oh my God.
And so, Lori Joris.
She had to sit through all that crap?
I know. Lori is now an official member of the state of Arizona and a member of Apache Junction. Today is day 1.
Nice to meet you. Hi. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's good to be here.
We are thrilled to have you here, and we love the fact that she wore pants that matches the
school bus.
Awesome. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome.
Today was very interesting. I think we've got a lot of work to do, but I am up for the challenge, and I think we're gonna have a very good year. I think we'll have great improvements, and I'm looking forward to what we can do with the transportation department.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Any future agenda items?
No, that's it.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.